The time for convening has arrived, so I'd like to call to order this meeting. Before we get into the business of this evening, I want to recognize the passing of one of our early pioneers in this city, Fire Chief Jack McElfish, who died yesterday after a long battle with cancer. He is the chief who set up our fire department, and a wonderful human being, a great friend of many of us, and set the fire department on the road to where we are today under Chief Sanders' leadership, getting the highest ranking in the ISO that we possibly can get. That's one of Jack's legacies, that he put us on a path that allowed us to be second to none when it comes to the fire corps and part of our public safety team. So before we begin the official agenda tonight, I would like to take a moment of silence to remember a dear friend and our first fire chief, Jack McElfish. I would like to call this meeting of the Sandy Springs City Council to order for Tuesday, September the 17th, 2024. Will the city clerk please make the announcements and call the roll?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First, I would like to remind those in attendance, please silence all cell phones and other electronic devices at this time. Individuals who would like to provide a public comment at a city council meeting are required to complete and submit a public comment card in advance of that meeting. Public comment cards are available online at the chamber entrance. Those providing public comment may be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak on their single chosen topic. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Rusty Paul.
Present.
Councilmember John Paulson. Here. Councilmember Melody Kelly.
Present.
Councilmember Melissa Mueller.
Here.
Councilmember Jody Rochelle. Here. Councilmember Tibby DeJulio. Here. Councilmember Andy Bauman. Here.
We normally do the pledge at this time, and we're going to do that, but we have some folks in the audience that I would like to invite down to help us lead in the Pledge of Allegiance. Will all those folks in uniform up the upper row come down and join us if you can? Please stand. Just sit down. Welcome, gentlemen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment cards?
Yes.
He asked facetiously.
Yes, we've received 9 public comment cards this evening. I'll call the first person down, and then I'll call the next to queue up behind them. First, we have Drew Evangelista, followed by Nicole Matahari.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I want to start things off. Obviously, hot button issue this past week is Spalding. It's an interesting coincidence. 4 of the members from Troop 463 are actually Spalding graduates, so it was a coincidence they were here for this before this all became a little more exciting. But I wanted to give a little quick color and some points to think about when talking with the school board, et cetera. I've had 3 kids go through it, so I'm a step away from, being actively involved and engaged and really emotionally as emotionally invested as others that are here. But So good schools are really critical to a thriving community and city. And there's a direct link that you can see all over the country between how schools are doing, the desirability of the schools, and people moving in, the jobs that are there, et cetera. Had 3 children go through Spalding, as you mentioned. 2 are in college. The senior is a senior at Vanderbilt, a sophomore at South Carolina, and they went all the way through middle school and high school in North Springs. So the fact that it's a draw, and in particular say, schools are really important, I say that from experience. So my youngest started at Trinity School in Atlanta, so arguably most prestigious school, some people say, et cetera. We moved away, came back, we're out of band on being able to come back in like that next year, but looked around with the Spalding, and to say that we didn't end up leaving. We stayed for the rest 3 and had opportunity to do elsewhere. And so what Spalding's doing really helps give a solid grounding for people going through the system. And the middle school, Sandy Springs Middle School, has a fantastic TIE program. The TIE program is equivalent of any of the best schools, in the city, or in the private schools. North Springs has a 50% acceptance rate to tech, and my senior's year, we had 3 kids go to Vanderbilt that year, where the other 4 nearest, closest private schools had maybe 3. So Spalding's a really key cornerstone to it. You can see it in people coming back. It's really important to the community. I think, when your job is to look 10, 20, 30, 50 years out, et cetera, the city plans on being here a long time. Facilities and space are very hard to come by. You can't get them back. And so there's things I think that could be done, whether it's flexing some stuff, so some of the larger schools and maximizing the district, maximizing the school here. There's things that can be done because trailers happen. Trailers happen on occasion. Things ebb and flow. We have more people moving in. And so I just wanted to bring up a couple points to kick things off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Evangelista.
Nicole Matahari, followed by Susan Story.
Let me ask you, I think in the rules, there's no demonstrations. I know you're excited and you want to support everybody, but we have to maintain decorum, so clap silently.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Paul, members of the City Council. I apologize. I left my orange and blue at home. I was running from work. My name is Nicole Matahari, and I'm here to discuss the potential closure of Spalding Drive Elementary. First, I want to thank Mayor Paul and all of our council members for supporting our efforts to keep Spalding Drive Elementary open. We see them, we appreciate them, we appreciate you. Spalding is more than a building. It is a cornerstone of our community. As someone who attended Spalding Drive, I can say that it helped shape me into who I am today. Ms. Shams, my gifted teacher at Spalding, was my inspiration to become a teacher myself. Librarians, Ms. Fenolio and Mr. McMahon, kept my avid soul well-fed with books, which ultimately led me to pursue a career as an English teacher. Today, I teach at North Springs High School, and I see firsthand how vital strong schools are for our community. Spalding Drive isn't just a school for those of us who attended. It's a place where educators like Ms. Bedovanak, our music teacher, and Mr. Stevenson, our counselor, nurtured our talents and dreams. Because of Spalding, I stayed in Sandy Springs and bought my home here in the district, hoping that my children could someday experience the same environment that I did. Closing our school would weaken the fabric of our entire community. Quality schools like Spalding are key to maintaining the strength and appeal of our neighborhoods. Removing it could deter families from moving to Sandy Springs, and we don't want that. Sandy Springs is incredible. By keeping Spalding open, we reinforce Sandy Springs as a place where communities want to live, invest, and grow. This is all about protecting the fabric of our community. Ensuring Spalding remains open means preserving the essence of what makes our city unique, a place where children can thrive and communities can flourish. In closing, I urge the council to continue advocating for Spalding Drive Elementary. This school has shaped generations and serves a vital part of what makes Sandy Springs a wonderful place to live. Let's not allow the bedrock of our community to be taken away. Together, I know we can find a solution to keep Spalding open and prospering for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Story, who will be followed by Kate Hecrotty.
It starts moving when you start talking.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Paul, for allowing me to be here and other council members. My name is Suzanne Story. I moved to the fine city of Sandy Springs 3 years ago from Gwinnett County. In Gwinnett County, I had 2 children through the school system there. We were a number. We didn't know the principal didn't know us. I'm going to share just a little bit about our personal story moving to Sandy Springs. We moved in North Springs neighborhood to be a part of a community. We didn't just find community, we found life. We found just so much thriving life within the community and the neighborhood. My son was a COVID kindergartner. He was expected to learn on Zoom and a laptop. Well, at 5, he'd never opened Zoom, never used a laptop. You can imagine how that went. He did not learn how to read. He did not learn how to write. He did not learn the key things that you would learn in kindergarten. When we moved here, he started November 1st. The principal, Ms. Rosenthal, opened the door and said, "Hello, Lexi and Brady." She knew them on their first day because we had just enrolled. She knows their names, she knows their birthdays, and so do all of the teachers at Spalding. My son got the remedial help that he needed. He learned how to read. He gained confidence. They got him a tutor. He joined a baseball program in which he was able to get confidence in himself. He's now in 4th grade and he's making straight A's. I can say 100% that only happened because of Spalding Drive Elementary and the teachers there. In Gwinnett County, we never would have gotten that. This is a fine city and it's a fine school, and it would be a travesty for it to be closed. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I also thank you that you're on our side. Anything that you can do with your positions of power to help us keep Spalding Drive Elementary open would make us all very, very happy. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Please use your power and position to help us keep our fine school open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Kate Hekwati, followed by Deepti Basen.
Good evening. Thank you all for your support thus far. I know you've probably been reached out to by a lot of individuals. It is greatly appreciated. It has been a very rough week for our families, to say the least. I just want to give you a little bit of perspective on how I have felt with the current situation, with the announcement, and what Spalding means to me. Decisions are often made on paper without understanding details. Data is measured, criteria is met, and decisions are made. It's a straightforward process for simple decisions, but the same can't be said for such a complex decision as closing our school that will impact our community, our families, our children. On paper, Spalding Drive Elementary meets the criteria set forth by Fulton County Schools as a candidate for closure. In reality, the school system, city, and county should be doing everything possible to ensure that SDE is open and flourishing for generations to come. In a metro area of 6 million people, Sandy Springs is still a city where neighbors help neighbors, friends chat in the grocery aisles, and children enjoy playing in the comfort and safety of our tree-lined streets. The backbone from which these relationships are developed is our school, Spalding Drive Elementary. The lone neighborhood school in our cluster, SDE fosters involvement at all levels due to the area's vested interest in its success. Through that participation, relationships form and bonds strengthen, which is reflected in the tight-knit community served by Spalding Drive Elementary. I have made countless friends and built a superb support group at Spalding Drive Elementary. This is not a nameless, faceless organization or a building plopped down on the side of a highway. It is the foundation of who we are as a community. Spalding Drive is something truly special. Our school bridges the gap between Roswell Road, Brandon Mill, and Johnson Ferry. No other school in FCS has what Spalding Drive has. A diverse student body with many ethnic and socioeconomic backgrounds that is outperforming state standards by all measures. Because of that, it is an anchor that ensures property values rise, tax revenue climb, and community growth can be supported. Without SDE, the desired ability of the area would undoubtedly decrease. Thank you for your help thus far, the communication, the support. We appreciate it. And thank you for the support moving forward as we fight this fight. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Deepti Basin, followed by Mary Ford. Okay. Mary Ford, followed by Bill Griffith.
Mayor Paul, City Council, good evening. My name is Mary Ford, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the High Point Civic Association, where I serve as president. I'm joined here tonight by my fellow board members, Sally Patton, Sally Duncan, and Bill Gannon. We're here tonight to demonstrate our show of support for the fine work of the Sandy Springs Police and Fire Departments. We know that without a doubt, they are key to contributing to the safe communities that we enjoy and communities that have earned so many national and international recognitions for the city of Sandy Springs. So to show our support tonight for these organizations, we are here with our annual donation, $1,000 to the Sandy Springs Police Benevolent Fund, to thank these men and women for the fine work that they do for our city. We're going to do just a brief photo op with Chief Sanders and the police major.
That's fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Bill Griffith, followed by Robert Petrosky. Excuse.
Mr. Mayor and council members, the city has been considering a side path along Roberts Drive since at least 2019, 5 years ago, and excluding the new GDOT bridge over Georgia 400, no dirt has been moved on Roberts Drive related to such a plan. The Roberts Drive side path scoping study dated May of 24, the study, shows a projected cost for the side path to be $16.7 million. The city's current year budget, approved 3 months ago, shows $9.9 million for the side path. That's less than 60% of the projected cost. Given the foregoing, it's easy for me to believe the side path will not be completed for years. Also, given that one of the goals of the study was to, quote, improve safety by providing safe walking and biking routes, end quote, it puzzles me that the study fails to address what to do about two dangerous situations prior to completing the side path. What are those dangerous situations? One relates to Roberts Drive. Due to my time limit, I'll discuss it now and the other one later. 3 months ago, I discussed the unsafe conditions on Roberts Drive and what to do about them. One suggestion was to, quote, reduce the speed limit to 25 miles an hour and install speed bumps, end quote, on Roberts Drive. Per the Transportation Master Plan, Roberts Drive is a collector street. From what I've heard, it seems that a collector street may not qualify for either of the aforementioned speed-reducing features. However, there are portions of several streets in Sandy Springs that are either collector streets or have a higher classification, yet they have one or both of those speed-reducing features. For example, Sandy Springs Circle, Glen Ridge Drive near Spalding, Johnson Ferry and Mount Vernon near City Hall, Mount Vernon west of Sandy Springs Circle, and Peachtree Dunwoody near 285. I've heard that the reason for the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on Johnson Ferry and Mount Vernon near City Hall is because of the high number of bicyclists and pedestrians there. However, there are sidewalks on both sides of those streets, whereas Roberts Drive does not have full sidewalk coverage on even one side, and it is a curvy, hilly, and dangerous road. Tweak number 6. While waiting on the side path to be completed sometime in the who-knows-when future, do what's necessary now to improve safety on the 1.2-mile stretch of Roberts Drive between Roswell Road and Summer Crossing. For example, what I suggested earlier, speed humps would probably be the most effective, and I'll discuss the other dangerous situation later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith.
We have Robert Kotrosko, who will be followed by Stephen Guy.
Hello. Thanks for having me. So this is again about Spalding. I'll keep it short, I promise. I was shocked when I heard the news that they're closing down. This school is one of the best things about Sandy Springs. We bought a house 4 years ago and moved here mainly because of Spalding Drive. We have 2 little kids. They both go there. They both love it. So I'm not sure I understand. This is not a failing school. This is a really, really good school with good. I'm just shocked by this. So I understand that enrollment is an issue. A solution, which I'm sure people have brought up, is Woodland Elementary, which is down the street, is full. It's at capacity. I mean, I'm sure they can just move the district lines and problem solved. So I'm sure it's more complicated than this, but that's a simple solution. One school is full, one is empty. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And last, we have Stephen Guy.
Good evening. Another Spalding Drive person here. I can only imagine the outpouring that y'all have received this weekend. Mr. Mayor, you and I were conversing via email, and I just want to mention a few points there because I think it's important everybody hears this. I think it might change the discussion we're having, is that y'all were informed the same time we were about the staff proposal to potentially close the school. Additionally, we have no control. We, as the Sandy Springs, have no control over the Fulton County Board of Education. So, I think what we really want to know is, and tonight may not be the best place to answer this, but how do we partner with y'all to save this school? What is the city doing to do that? So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guy, and thank you all. And that's our last one, correct? Okay. Thank you for being here. This is why, as I said at the State of the City speech today, this is a very passionate community. When you're unhappy, you have no hesitancy about letting me know. Or any of the rest of us, as far as that goes. We're all concerned. As I said today in the State of the City, when you use the condition of the building as an excuse or a policy basis, and it's deteriorating, basically that means you haven't invested in the facilities to keep them in the condition they should have been. And in Sandy Springs, parents have choices. If you don't like this school, we have private schools, and there's so many options for parents. And when they look at aging facilities, and I think the folks here tonight understand that education happens in all kinds of buildings. But there are parents who look at those buildings and say, I think I'll send my kids somewhere else. And then the population drops. So one policy decision not to improve the buildings leads to another policy result that they now use to justify closing the school. And that's the point that I tried to make today. And there were a couple of school board members there. I gave them a heads up that was what I was going to say. We've had to do this before. I see some folks who are battle-hardened from North Springs High School. And the fact that they have to do this again, I'm sure, is as concerning to them as it is to all of us. As I said, I feel like I feel like we're being picked on for some reason or other. And so we just need to work together. If I could give you one bit of advice, use data, use facts. And I could tell on the faces of everybody, this is a very emotional issue, as it should be. You're dealing with your kids. I mean, there's nothing that's more emotional than that. But this has to be a fact-based, with data and facts that back up the basis for why we want to keep that school operational. You've given the cultural reasons. Next step is developing the intellectual ammunition you need to be able to make a business case And that's really what it comes down to. They're making a business decision. Unfortunately, in that business decision, you extract the kids from that equation. And that should never be the case, particularly when you're dealing with schools. So get your, and Mr. Guy and I were talking about this as we exchanged emails, get your facts together. And then when you get your facts together, you can get your act together. So do that, and I think I'm speaking for the whole board here. We'll be with you every step of the way and doing everything that we can. And there are a few levers that we can pull from time to time to get their attention. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll come out and win, but they need our help and cooperation on certain numbers of things in the community too. And we've been known to remind them of that. So anyway, thank you for your passion. Thank you for being here. We do this every other Tuesday night, or the first and third Tuesdays. You don't necessarily have to come speak, but we do love seeing our citizens in the audience. So thank you very much. All right. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. DiGiulio.
I move approval of the meeting agenda for Tuesday, September 17th, 2024.
We have a motion by Mr. DiGiulio. Is there a second? Been motioned by Mr. DiGiulio, seconded by Mr. Paulson, that we approve the meeting agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on the approval of the meeting agenda. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The meeting agenda is approved. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor Paul,
Ms. Rochelle.
I move that we approve the consent agenda for Tuesday, September 17th.
Have a motion by Ms. Rochelle. Is there a second?
Second.
Been a motion by Ms. Rochelle, seconded by Ms. Mueller, that we approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on approval of the consent agenda. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The consent agenda is approved. Moving to public hearings, will the clerk please read the first item?
Agenda item number 2024-235. This is U24-0001, 6450 Barfield Road and 6449 Glen Ridge Drive. Request for consideration of a conditional use permit to modify the scope of expansion of an existing place of worship campus in the RE2 zoning district, presented by Planning and Zoning Manager Michelle McIntosh Ross.
Ms. McIntosh Ross.
Yes, good evening. Greetings, Mayor and City Council. The planning staff reviewed the condition. Do I have the PowerPoint? I'll wait.
Yeah, you skipped one.
Okay, I think that's it. I don't have a clip. Okay, we could go to the next slide. Okay. All right, yeah. So staff reviewed the conditional use permit U24-0001 at 6449 Glenridge Drive and 6450 Barfield Road. This is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and staff recommended approval with conditions, and Planning Commission also recommends approval with conditions. Next slide. The applicant is requesting to modify the scope of expansion of an existing place of worship campus in the RE zoning district. Next slide. The zoning is RE2, residential estate, 2 acres, and it is in the protected neighborhood character area. Next slide. The aerial shows the site as it exists today. To the left, outlined in blue, is the parcel that is closer to Glenridge Drive is the location of the building, the meeting house, that is to be expanded. Next slide. Okay, so the entire site is a little over 13 acres. As you saw on the previous slide, the site consists of 2 parcels. The left parcel with the meeting house, and the right parcel holds the temple, which is closer to Barfield Road. According to the applicant, the meeting house was built in 1988. The property is adjacent to the perimeter districts. The north is Mercedes-Benz headquarters building and the Aria townhomes. And to the south is Glenridge Close and the multifamily complex of Granville. Across the street to the west is the Aria residential detached subdivision and across the street to the east is Serrano Condos and North Place Condos. Next slide. The survey shows the orientation of the existing building. It's a rectangular building, as you can see, and it is oriented north-south. And it is set back from Glenridge Drive about 200 feet, just a little bit under 200 feet. Next slide. Okay, the picture to the left shows the front of the building, and the picture to the right shows the drive aisle on the south side of the building. Next slide. The picture to the left shows the south wall adjacent to Glenridge Close, and the picture to the right shows the east side of the Meeting House building, which is the building in question. Next slide. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing 14,988 square foot Meeting House and replace it with a larger 25,311 square foot Meeting House. There will also be an increase of the parking area by 64 spaces for a total of 311 spaces. Next slide. Here is the proposed site plan. As you can see, the building is oriented east-west now, and it is closer to Glenridge Drive. It is about 77 feet from the property line adjacent to Glenridge Drive. There's a new parking area, and it's located north and to the east of the building. Next slide. Here you can see the new building and what it would look like from Glenridge Drive. Shows the elevations. Next slide. This is the interior floor plan. As you can see, there are classrooms, conference rooms, multipurpose sport court, as well as assembly areas, etc. in here. Next slide. Okay. So the conditions that we used to analyze this application, the proposed use is allowed in the RE district via a conditional use permit, and the use has an existing previous conditional use permit permitting the use as it is. The use is compatible with the existing principal use and complies with all previous conditions and the current development code use standards. We do not foresee any potential adverse impacts. The proposal will not dramatically change the current operations on the site. The use maintains the sense of place, and it is in keeping with the appropriate land use transition. The proposed development is organized to contain queuing of traffic associated with operations and events. The streetscape along Glenridge Drive will be improved per the development code, and the buffer between the neighborhoods will also be improved. Next slide. Here are the recommended conditions for approval of conditional use permit U24-0001. To the owner's agreement to limit the use of the property to the religious temple and support and auxiliary structures, including maintenance and garage facilities, a distribution center, and with a maximum of 25 residential units and a chapel building, or an additional 35 residential units. The second one, to the owner's agreement to abide by the site plan received on July 22nd of 2024. Said site plan is conceptual only and must meet or exceed the requirements of the development code and these conditions prior to the approval of a land disturbance permit. Unless otherwise noted herein, compliance with all conditions shall be in place prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Next, to the owner's agreement to submit to the Director of Community Development for approval prior to the issuance of a grading permit, a detailed landscape plan, and further to the owner's agreement that said landscaping approved by the Director of Community Development shall be in place prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy or connection to permanent power. To the owner's agreement to provide a minimum of 25-foot wide natural undisturbed buffer replanted where sparsely vegetated along the entire north and south property lines, in addition to the 25-foot setback. And number 5, to the owner's agreement that the entire 40-foot setback along Barfield Road frontage shall be a landscape strip, and to the owner's agreement to provide a minimum 5-foot deep, 100-foot linear landscape strip parallel to Glenridge Drive. the property frontage along Glenridge Drive. Said landscape strip along Glenridge Drive shall be planted in conformance with the landscape plan provided, received by the Community Development Department and referenced in condition number 3, subject to the approval of the Sandy Springs arborist. Next slide. So these were provided by the applicant, and the gist of it, the applicant wanted to provide additional security cameras. This is per discussions with the neighborhoods. Also some landscaping, limiting interior work to Saturdays. Also to notify the neighbors if blasting would be required, and that the parking areas to the south of the property shall remain as a legal non-conforming. Next slide. I'm sorry. Okay. Staff have prepared the draft ordinance, which can include any conditions that we have seen today. You may choose to approve any of those conditions tonight. The Planning Commission has recommended the approval of the use permit U24-0001 with all 10 of the conditions.
All right, thank you. We have any public comment cards?
Yes, we've received 2 this evening in support, and I'd like to read the public comment rules. I didn't do so before I called.
Okay.
So to acquaint everybody with the rules and procedures for this portion of the public hearing, the applicants and those speaking in support of an application will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present the application. The applicant may choose to save some of their time for rebuttal following the presentation by the opposition. The opposition will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present its position. Since the burden of proof is upon the applicant will be allowed to make closing remarks, provided time remains from the original allotted time. City staff will keep track of time for both sides. Those called to speak will be taken in order that the public comment cards were received by the clerk staff prior to the beginning of this evening's meeting. If all speakers can identify themselves by name, address, and organization, if applicable, before beginning their presentation. And finally, material should not be submitted to the council during the meeting unless you're requested to do so.
All right.
So in support of the application, we have 2 public comments. The first is from Chris Cornell, who will be followed by Jeff Haymore.
Mayor Paul and members of the City Council, my name is Jeff Haymore. Our law firm Dillard Sellers represents the applicant, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Our address is 1776 Peachtree Street. Also wanted to let you know that here tonight, in case you have any questions, our project team members, including John Erickson and Katie Miller of an architectural firm, Hill Foley Rossi, as well as Daniel Herrera from Lowe Engineers, as well as Wayne Hales, who's the church's facility manager. The church has operated, as you may know, a temple and a meeting house at this property since 1982 and 1988, respectively. And that was pursuant to a 1980 conditional use permit granted by Fulton County. It's been modified a little bit through the years. So as surrounding properties have developed, the church has welcomed those as neighbors. As you heard tonight, is a proposal to replace that existing meeting house. This is at 6449 Glenridge Drive in District 3. The building is simply at the end of its life cycle. So the meeting house portion of the campus is what hosts our Sunday worship services as well as Wednesday fellowship for church members and visitors. We agree with the staff's analysis that the proposed use is compatible with the RE2 zoning district, that is consistent with the goals and intents of the comprehensive plan, and that we meet all applicable conditional use permit standards, and that there are no adverse impacts that are anticipated. As you heard, both the Planning Commission and the staff recommend that you approve this use permit subject to certain conditions. Staff has 5 conditions, and we're fine with those. The Planning Commission adopted those 5, plus the 5 that the church, in concert with neighbors, are proposing before you tonight, so a total of 10 conditions. We have the written support of the Glenridge Close Homeowners Association, which is just to the south of us. And in just a moment, you'll hear from Chris Cornell, who's the president of the association. But also you can find at page 87 of your packet the association's letter of support. You've seen the proposed elevations and the floor plan. They're found at pages 66 through 68 of your packet. The new meeting house, as you might have seen from the rendering, will be an all-brick facade with asphalt shingle roof. The building height will be about 1 foot shorter than it is currently, and the proposed building height is 33 feet 5 inches. You've seen the site plan. As Michelle pointed out, the orientation will shift to engage with the street a little bit more. So it'll go east to west, still set back from Glenridge quite a bit and more than in compliance with the minimum setbacks for the RE2 district. We're going to build sidewalks in front of the church so it'll connect to adjacent parcels. Our parking on the south will remain the same as is, and then on the north, the driveway and the parking will be reoriented just a little bit to pull us further away from that northern property line. We are proposing additional parking, but it will be behind the building, and it will be compliant with all applicable standards, including landscaping and the tree conservation code. So really that's about it. We ask that you approve the use permit. I'd like to reserve any time in the event that we need to rebut. I don't think we will, but in case we do. And with that, just here to answer any questions that you have.
Ms. Rochelle.
Can you please explain the distribution center and the maintenance and garage facilities? And also, is it 60 residential units or is it 35 residential units? And can you explain the residential units?
Yes, so the conditions as written are really a carryover as they read in 1980. So it's not new language, it's just carryover of those conditions. The distribution center really is a religious bookstore. And it's been there for a very long time, probably since the temple has been there. The housing that's on the site, there's about 14 apartment units, and they've been there since the 80s as well. They basically house people that might be visiting from long distance to worship at the temple, or really at the temple, as well as any volunteers that might be being there for a weekend or something like that. But there's no long-term, residence or anything like that.
Can we make that more specific in the recommendations then, that it's a bookstore, distribution center? And so you're saying there's only 14 units. There's not going to be 60 units, residential units?
Well, let me pull up the conditions here.
And the garage facility?
There's there's a parking lot. There's no parking deck or garage. Again, this is just sort of for context. If you go back and look at the 1980 conditions, they've been this one has stayed the same as is. And so in working with staff, it was simply a repeat of the current condition as it currently reads right now.
So maintenance and garage facilities is a parking lot? Parking spaces.
That's right. There's no parking deck. It's just a parking lot. I couldn't say in 1980 what was meant by. There is a small shed on the meeting house parcel for storage of things that you might expect. It's very, very small, but I'm not sure what they mean by maintenance and garage facilities, other than it is what it is right now, which is a parking deck or parking lot.
So, Michelle, can we tighten that up a little bit? So, because it's pretty broad.
Yes, like what Jeff was saying, this was the list of conditions from back in the 80s. So we can change any of these, how you want to change it. So if you wanted to remove something from here, but we just thought they had that condition from previous, we just carried over.
I'd like to put that as a bookstore, just because distribution center sounds
okay.
And
so yeah, we can do that.
Okay, thanks.
Is that a motion?
Excuse me. I do have one more public comment.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure if you intend to make. I know, but I was just going to say, is that a motion? Okay. Who's next?
Excuse me, Jeff Haymore.
Sorry, that was Jeff who just spoke. Mayor, City Council, my name is Chris Cornell. I am the president of Glenridge Close Homeowners Association. I'm also the representative tonight. I reside at 730 Glenridge Close Drive, Sandy Springs, Georgia, 30328. And this is regarding 024001. The Glenridge Close Homeowners Association supports the approval of the conditional use permit as it's required for the church's intended replacement of the meeting house on the meeting house property. The association, including its board members, supports the processes and approvals required for the granting of such a conditional use permit. During and since the community meeting process, the church and the association have worked collaboratively on matters such as the security cameras, the landscaping, and the construction hours, which were very important to the community. The association supports the church's 5 proposed conditional use permit conditions, and the association respectfully asks that the city approve the conditional use permit. And I'll also add, on a personal note, my backyard backs up against the church, and the church has been nothing but quiet, courteous, and respectful neighbors the entire 6 years that I've lived there. So thank you for your time tonight.
Any others? All right, we'll close the public hearing. You've heard the report of the Planning and Zoning Manager. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul.
Ms. Mueller.
I move that we approve agenda item 2024-235, U24-0001 for 6450 Barfield Road and 6449 Glenridge Drive for the approval of a conditional use permit to modify the scope of expansion of an existing place of worship campus in the RE2 zoning district with all 10 of the noted recommended conditions.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Mueller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Mueller, seconded by Dr. Kelly, that we approve agenda item 2024-235, a conditional use permit to modify the scope of expansion of an existing place of worship campus in the RE2 zoning district. Any discussion?
Mayor Paul.
Ms. Mueller.
So I want to say thank you for working with the neighborhoods. That doesn't always happen, seemingly. So thank you also for the neighborhoods for working with the church. So I think that we were able to. It sounds like you're able to come to an agreeable solution. That's fantastic.
Any other discussion?
Is it possible to?
You need to make a motion.
Okay, I'd like.
You got to amend the motion.
Can I make an amendment to the motion to just add, instead of maintenance and garage, to add parking spaces, and instead of distribution center, to add bookstore?
We have a motion by Ms. Rochelle to amend the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's a motion by Ms. Rochelle, seconded by Dr. Kelly, to amend the conditions to replace garage with parking spaces and distribution center with bookstore. Any discussion? Mr. Paulson.
The applicant is here. Since he's been working with the neighborhood, I'd be interested in his take on these suggestions that have just been made, this amendment made.
Thank you, Council Member. Appreciate that. With regard to distribution center, that's just fine. I think bookstore is honestly, that's what it is. In church parlance, I think it's historically just been called a distribution center. That's what church members know it as, but it is a religious bookstore. With regard to maintenance and garage facilities, the only pause I would have there is there's a little shed that's existing for storage of just stuff, little overflow stuff that you might have in your shed in your backyard. And so rather than maybe striking maintenance and garage facilities, maybe just maintenance facility and parking spaces or something like that, just so that the existing structure that's there is deemed to be compliant.
That's fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Rochelle, is that you modifying your motion to include the suggestions we've just heard?
Yes.
All right. Dr. Kelly, are you fine with that? All right. Any further discussion? All right. The posture we're in is the first item will be voted on will be the amendment. If the amendment passes, we'll move to the main motion as amended. If the motion fails, then we will take up the motion as offered. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The amendment is approved. All in favor of the motion to approve agenda item 2024-235, the conditional use permit to modify the scope and the expansion of an existing place of worship campus in the RE2 zoning district as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. Moving to new business, the clerk will please read the first item.
Agenda item number 2024-236. This is consideration to approve a contract award to Backbone Infrastructure LLC to construct the Brandon Mills Sidewalk Construction Project and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract. This is presented by Public Works Director Marty Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Mayor and council, good evening. Tonight I bring before you an award recommendation for a construction project, that being Brandon Mill Road Sidewalk Project, S2187, as captured in our T-Splost inventory. To that end, the city plans to construct a 6-foot sidewalk on the east side of Brandon Mill Road, as well as some repairs and realignments of Brandon Mill Road to accommodate the sidewalk. Further contemplated in the work is a new stormwater drainage system, retaining walls, and other utility relocations is required to construct the pedestrian walkway. Design for the project was completed under project number TS-172, and construction is now funded by project number S2187. The invitation for bid for this project included not only the construction of the sidewalk and the roadway adjustments, but as well repaving of that portion of Brandon Mill Road within which the sidewalk's being constructed. That area having been identified as requiring repaving for a few years now. However, that repaving has been delayed pending construction of the sidewalk and the roadway adjustments. With that said, the base bid for the project, the sidewalk work, will be funded by the T-Splost program, and the bid alternate will be funded by Project T3000 Pavement Management Program, as this portion of the Brandon Mill Road had been, as I mentioned, budgeted to be resurfaced within the fiscal year. On July 10th, the city issued an ITB seeking bids from qualified contractors. Those 4 bids were received on August 9th, 2024, to include the lowest, most responsive and responsible bid, that by Backbone Infrastructure LLC, with a base bid of $1,563,513 and an alternate bid for the paving work of $128,863 for a total bid of $1,692,376. Compared to the engineer's estimate, which we if you assess that it may have been a little bit high, in this case, we concur as well at $2.6 million and change. City believes that the bid work is appropriate when considered against the engineer's estimate, especially considering the other bids received. Staff recommends award to Backbone Infrastructure in the total bid amount. There are sufficient funds available within both Project S2187, the T-Splost budget, and T3000, the Pavement Management Program, to award this contract. Further, we have used Backbone Infrastructure successfully, most recently on Peachtree Dunwoody at Windsor intersection project, which they were able to satisfy on schedule and met all quality standards in the work there. And this contractor also has at work here in the city of Sandy Springs a Georgia Department of Transportation project, that quadrant intersection project out at Holcomb Bridge and Spalding Drive in the very east end of the city. They're the contractor under hire by GDOT at this time to construct that project. So with that reference check as well, we recommend award to Backbone.
All right, you've heard the report of the Public Works Director. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul.
Ms. Mueller.
I move that we approve agenda item 2024-236 for the approval of a contract award to Backbone Infrastructure LLC to construct the Brandon Mills Sidewalk Construction Project and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
We have a motion by Ms. Mueller. Is there a second? Then motion by Ms. Mueller, seconded by Ms. Rochelle, that we approve agenda item 2024-236, a contract award to Backbone Infrastructure LLC to construct the Brandon Mill Road Sidewalk Construction Project and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract. Is there any discussion? Ms. Mueller.
So Marty, really excited to get this last phase done. When would you anticipate starting once we get the approval? Because I know people probably are listening and I might get an email or two about that.
Generally, it's going to take about 30 days to get the award documents completed. Then we can sit down with the contractor and issue a notice to proceed from there. But we see no other challenges, and we got good news as well. We had one pending utility relocation, a very minor one related to the project, but still a utility relocation just the same, that being an AT&T pole relocation. It appears that they've now arrived on site. I think part of it has to do with the strike being over at this point, and it looks like they may be able to commence that work as well. So we expect within about 30 days to 6 weeks.
And then how long do you anticipate this project to take? That'll probably be the next
I
question.
did not check our bid period. Typically work like, this is pretty extensive.
Yeah.
I'll, if I could, follow up with you,
Okay,
Councilwoman,
sure, that's fine.
just to make sure I get the right date. I've got a guess in my head, but I truly didn't look before I came up here tonight. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Marty. We are all familiar with sidewalk projects on Brandon Mill, okay? And the ones that are finished look fantastic. Because this is in front of all these folks' homes, let's make sure, my suggestion is, let's make sure the contractor and staff are talking to these homeowners about what's happening so that they're not kept in the dark.
I understand.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2024-236, approving a contract award to Backbone Infrastructure LLC to construct the Brandon Mill Sidewalk Construction Project and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. Moving to the next item, clerk, please read.
Agenda item number 2024-237, consideration to approve a contract award to Vertical Earth to construct the Riverside Drive Stormwater Mitigation Phase 2 project and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract, presented by Public Works Director Marty Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Mayor and Council, as titled, this is Phase 2 of storm drainage work we've been undertaking on Riverside Drive in the immediate vicinity of the lake at North Harbor. In this case, this work will be done predominantly on the east side of Riverside Drive, where the work part of the Phase 1 work was on the west side of the road, the Ignatius House side of the road, for lack of a better term there. In this case, this project will replace existing failing spillway with a new reinforced concrete spillway, upgrade and extend an existing 84-inch diameter drop inlet, install some 315 square feet of grouted riprap as an overflow protection measure, construct 187 linear feet of reinforced concrete retaining wall, and replace some 160 linear feet of guardrail and 100 linear feet of curb and gutter associated with the work of the project. To advance this project, the city issued an ITB invitation to bid on July 17th of 2024, seeking bids from qualified contractors. 3 bids were received prior to the August 2024 bid date. Among those 3 bids received was a bid from Vertical Earth Incorporated in the amount of $687,400. Upon review of the bids and with knowledge of Vertical Earth's ability to properly deliver the project, they have several active construction projects underway with us right now. Staff recommends that the contract award be made to the lowest, most responsible and responsive bidder, in this case, Vertical Earth, in the amount of $686,400.
You've heard the report of the Public Works Director. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul.
Ms. Mueller.
I move that we approve agenda item 2024-237 for the approval of a contract award to Vertical Earth Incorporated to construct the Riverside Drive Stormwater Mitigation Phase 2 project and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Motion by Ms. Mueller. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Baumann, that we approve the agenda item 2024-237, a contract award to Vertical Earth to construct the Riverside Drive Stormwater Mitigation Phase 2 project. Any discussion? Ms. Mueller.
So, Marty, will this be the last phase of this, and this will be wrapped up then once this?
That's correct. This is the
complete?
final work contemplated with this site here,
Okay.
Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2024-237, approving a contract award to Vertical Earth to construct the Riverside Drive Stormwater Mitigation Phase 2 project and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item 2024-238. This is consideration of a resolution to approve a memorandum of understanding by and between the City of Sandy Springs, Georgia, and Cumberland Academy of Georgia to collaborate on access to city-owned facilities and city-owned facilities and Cumberland Academy-owned facilities for athletic and recreational programming. This is presented by Parks and Rec Director Brent Walker.
Mr. Walker.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Cumberland Academy of Georgia specializes in the needs of children in 4th through 12th grade with high-functioning autism, Asperger's, ADD, and ADHD, and other learning differences. The mission of the Academy is to provide a safe and supportive educational environment. In order to meet these needs, they have requested the use of the activity building and the athletic field at Hammond Park to provide programs to their students. In return, they have offered a much-needed gym space to the recreation department for our youth basketball program. The city's had a mutually beneficial relationship with Cumberland for the past 2 years. To continue that relationship, we've drafted a memorandum of understanding for your consideration. The terms of the 2024 MOU is for 1 initial year and 4 optional renewal years. Tonight I have Hunter Jordan, our city's youth athletic program coordinator, and Jennifer St. John, the assistant head of school from Cumberland Academy, here to assist with any questions that y'all may have.
All right, you've heard the report of the Parks and Recreation Department head. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul.
Ms. Rochelle.
I move that we approve agenda item 2024-238, a resolution to approve a memorandum of understanding by and between the City of Sandy Springs, Georgia, and Cumberland Academy of Georgia to collaborate on access to city-owned facilities and Cumberland Academy-owned facilities for athletic and recreational programming.
We have a motion by Ms. Rochelle. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Rochelle, seconded by Dr. Kelly, that we approve agenda item 2024-238, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding by and between the City of Sandy Springs and Cumberland Academy of Georgia to collaborate on access to city-owned facilities. Any discussion? Ms. Rochelle.
My friend's son went to school there, and it's a great school, and I appreciate what you do for the city. What are the hours that we're going to be? Is it a set in stone, or is it's like set hours?
So the use of their gym, we use it primarily for our basketball program, which is ongoing right now during basketball season in the evenings. Their use is a little bit more sporadic throughout the year. They do kind of a college prep program at our activity building at Hammond, and as they schedule athletic programs and things that they may need at our athletic field, that will be scheduled with our reservation system. They've also requested opportunities to do volunteer service in the Parks Department, so we're going to partner them with some of our Eco Warriors program to try to get them more involved with some of our operations and maintenance in the parks also.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any other discussion? Mr. Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So, quick question. Is this the first time we've worked in agreement with these folks, or is this a continuing thing that we're just extending?
This is the first time we've had a formal agreement. We've had this type of partnership with them in the past, but as we're trying to formalize our agreements, this is something that the legal vehicle that legal department decided that we should best do for this.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other discussion? Dr. Kelly.
Are we using any other gyms, or is this our only?
So we have IGAs with the school systems.
Okay.
And so we
The
use a
public
lot
schools.
of those. Yes, correct.
Okay, so we use gyms at most of the elementary schools?
Elementary schools. And we did at Sandy Springs Middle School until recently when the North Springs renovation took place. They moved their athletic programs to that school, so we had to kind of relocate.
Okay, and then I assume we might use a soccer field, or so I'm just trying to get a sense of what facilities we leverage partnership to use for our programming. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2024-238. Resolution approving a memorandum of understanding by and between the City of Sandy Springs and Cumberland Academy of Georgia to collaborate on access to city-owned facilities and Cumberland Academy-owned facilities for athletic and recreational program. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2024-239, consideration to approve an intergovernmental agreement between the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority and the City of Sandy Springs for shared access to 800 megahertz trunking talk groups, presented by Sandy Springs Police Department Major Dan Nabel.
Mr. Nabel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity. We're recommending that we enter into an intergovernmental agreement with MARTA and the City of Sandy Springs and the respective police departments. MARTA reached out to me about maybe 2 months ago and said that they are revamping their entire communication system, and they requested, or they are requesting all of the various agencies that MARTA line runs through to enter into an agreement with them that we could share our frequencies on the police radio so that the officers could speak to one another if we find ourselves working with them or on their property, or they find themselves in our city in some circumstance. It's especially beneficial to the city in 2 ways. One is our radios will not work inside their tunnels. If we can switch our radios over to theirs, then they have repeaters inside their tunnels that would allow us to at least be able to contact someone. Of course, the obvious is when we have a joint operation with MARTA. And then the other benefit that we have right now is that we are currently in the process of purchasing new portable radios for the entire police department. And part of that purchase requires that we program these radios. When MARTA gives us their what are called talk groups, we can program those into our radios as part of this initial programming of the new radios and not incur any additional cost. We will have some cost to program our in-car radios, but there is no need for any budget items on that because that'll be taken care of in our current budget for technology services. The alternative for council is to not approve the agreement and wait till some future time. The disadvantage to that would be at a future time, they would have to touch every single one of our radios again to reprogram them, which would incur a significant additional cost. That's our recommendation, and I'll have questions or answers to any questions you may have.
All right. You've heard the report of Major Nabel. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul.
Mr. Bauman.
I move that we adopt agenda item 2024-239, consideration to approve the IGA with MARTA and the City of Sandy Springs for the shared access on the trunking talk groups.
I have a motion by Mr. Bauman. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Bauman, seconded by Mr. Paulson, that we approve agenda item 2024-239, an intergovernmental agreement between Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority and the City of Sandy Springs for shared access to 800 megahertz trunking talk groups. Any discussion? Mr. Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, it sounds like a great idea. How often do we interact with MARTA on events that occur? Once a week, once a month, once a year? Do you have an idea?
So I don't have an exact number, but I can tell you that in the early part of the city, the early time of the city, we didn't really interact with MARTA very much. They kind of did their thing and we did ours. But in recent years, we've begun to do some joint operations where we send some of our undercover folks. They have some of theirs. We get on the trains and we work together to identify any criminal element that might be using that train to come into Sandy Springs, vice versa. We've had several times where we've made cases in conjunction with MARTA Police. One time where we even approached a guy on the platform for illegal drug use, ended up in a foot chase with him down on the tracks into the space. Turned out he ran because he was wanted for armed robbery. So we were able to get him off the street. But that's one of our initiatives, is to work more closely with MARTA in the future because we have a mutual interest to keep those rail lines safe.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2024-239, approving an intergovernmental agreement between Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority and City of Sandy Springs for shared access to 800 megahertz trunking talk groups. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. Much to the relief of the young men up in the balcony, we're about to be finished. You're here to get their citizenship merit badge as a group. So thank you for your attendance. Thank you for participating. We'll go to reports by mayor and council. I want to talk about maybe very quickly 3 quick things. Our honor guard was honored during the 9/11 ceremonies at the state capitol. The governor asked for our color guard to participate in the 9/11 annual commemoration at the Capitol, and they were flawless. They did a phenomenal job. The governor was very appreciative of the fact that they were there, and I was very proud to see them there in that. We talked tonight about the Mormon property rezoning. The Mormon Tabernacle Choir filled the whole north end of the Capitol, and the sound in that marble space was just amazing. And so I was very proud that we were able to have a key role in that, and thank the members of the Joint Honor Guard for their participation. I know they were honored, and they did a phenomenal job. I had an opportunity to meet with the Georgia Municipal Association and Association of County Commissioners Joint Legislative Policy Committee. We meet a couple of times a year between the counties and the cities to go over political and legislative agenda items. As we have traditionally done here, we will be participating in the Hometown Connection program, where we're going to invite our legislators after the election, once we know who they are, to sit down with us as a group and our staff and GMA staff to come in and talk about the major issues that we think will be facing us in the legislature. And believe it or not, it's coming faster than you realize and faster than many of us hope. But that was a very productive meeting. A lot of focus on technology, a lot of focus on artificial intelligence and how other communities are using it. I talked a little bit about it in the State of the City address today. It's an area that's evolving very quickly. I was very impressed, and I know the city attorney and I are both alumni of the Georgia General Assembly, and I was really impressed by the legislators who are leading the state in the effort to get on top of these emerging technologies. I think we've got some good leadership there. They did some great presentations and taking a look forward. Also, this past week, we had a delegation from Israel. The city of Atlanta and the Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta have a sister city relationship with community Yokneam Megiddo in the central part of Israel. They were here. They called and asked if I would be willing to have lunch with them, and I was very proud to do that. It turned out that one of the gentlemen that was in the delegation is from our sister city, Akko, and we knew a lot of people in common, so we spent a lot of time talking about people that we knew, and I sent him back with a note to say thank you, and we were delighted to have them here and to say hello to our friends there in the northern part of Galilee. So that's pretty much it for me. Mr. Paulson.
So, not this weekend, but next weekend, we have the annual Sandy Springs Festival, which sounds like it's going to be a wild event.
A lot of excitement around it. So, yeah, a lot of music. Mr. Baumann.
Thank you. Mayor Paul, when you were up at your county city GMA joint meeting, sadly there was a school shooting while you were not too far from where you were, and I'm not sure if our flags are half-staff for that or something else, but I think they may be. And that has occurred since our most recent council meeting. And I see the students up here, and just it's just really angering and sad that this hits close to home. We have friends up in that community, and speaking of the legislators, and I'm just speaking for myself, I hope they look at that and there's talk about that, because that affects all of our communities. And just very sad to see that happening all again. I would note that Mary Ford, who was here earlier with the presentation to our Police Benevolent Fund, works for an area company, I think it's Centigix or something, that provides the security badges that were used at that school, Appalachia High School, that may have made a difference. And apparently they're in many of the schools here in Georgia and throughout certainly the Southeast. So that's on my mind. I know it's on all of our minds, and I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm sure we all join in grieving for that community and hoping that when our legislature returns, that they can find some bipartisan solutions to begin to address this epidemic.
Well, it was particularly close to home for our family because my son-in-law was offered a job at that school and quite possibly would have been in the classroom where the coach that was killed would have been. So that kind of, it always rattles your cages when those sorts of things happen. When people ask me what keeps me awake at night, is that sort of thing happening in our community. So we work real hard with our police and the local schools to do what we can to protect. But there still needs to be some common sense laws passed to further protect our students in classrooms and our teachers. I mean, the teachers, they were half the people who were killed there were members of the faculty. So it was, yes, I was about 5 miles away when that occurred. So thank you. Any others? All right. Ms. Carlisle, the numbers.
Good evening, Mayor Paul and Council. This is the review for your July 2024 unaudited financials. Page 1, we're at 8.33% of the fiscal year. Revenues are at 11.39%, and expenditures are at 6.99% of the budget. On page 2, this represents the cash balances in our bank accounts with Georgia Fund 1 and Truist Bank as of the close of July 2024. Pages 3 through 5. These exhibits represent the trend of interest earned from both Truist Bank and Georgia Fund 1. Page 6 is the trend of the local option sales taxes. I'm just going through this just to familiarize everyone with the flow of the financial report. So again, page 6 is just to provide you the trend of the local option sales taxes collected. Then pages 9 through 28 are the departmental or general fund expenditures that are occurring as expected, being 1 month into the fiscal year. The remaining pages, or 29 through 35, represent the special fund revenues, special revenue fund, capital projects, debt service, enterprise funds for your review. And that concludes the financial review for July 2024.
Any questions of the Chief Financial Officer? All right, thank you, Ms. Carlisle. We need an executive session for the purposes of real estate and litigation. Is there a motion?
Mayor Paul.
Mr. Paulson.
I move that we suspend regular order and move into executive session for the purposes of real estate and litigation.
We have a motion by Mr. Paulson. Is there a second? Motion by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. DiGiulio, that we suspend regular order and move into executive session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on executive session. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are in executive session. We will take a 5-minute recess so I can go up here and chat with our scout members. There will be no further business conducted tonight. We shall simply return from the executive session, return to regular order, and then immediately adjourn. Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. DiGiulio to return to regular order. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We are back in regular order.
Mr. Mayor, I move adjournment.
Mr. DiGiulio moves adjournment, seconded by Mr. Paulson. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. We are done at 8:01.